Forgive me for making pretty basic slides with a bunch of charts. And, it's been 5 years since I made slides, so cut me some slack there. So yeah, I'm going to talk about something that is pretty boring, but is sustainable. And I think as an industry, that's the transition that we need. At Decentralized.co, I lead research at Decentralized, and for the past few months, this has been the theme of our writing that you will follow in our writing. It is that we need to move from flavor of the month, flavor of the week, to something more sustainable as an industry and try to get a little bit more serious. One big caveat, as an industry, the data that we have is pretty different. Different teams and different data providers calculate things very differently. So there might be some numbers that are a little bit conflicting. But the idea is to just share a bigger picture of what is happening across the industry as far as revenue is concerned. So before I get into the numbers and charts, ballpark, like different types of revenue is the app revenue, validator revenue, and network revenue. App revenue is simple. If you go to an application and you are transacting and they will ask for a fee, that is essentially app revenue. Validator revenue is something that validators who are running nodes on the network will earn, and that's typically inflationary rewards, base fee shares, priority fees, and MEV tips. And network revenue is like if you look at validator revenue and you remove the inflationary rewards, like that's your network revenue. With that, when you go to an application and you pay fees, this is how your fees get distributed. This is particularly for Solana, but all the blockchains typically follow the similar model. Base fees get burnt, like 50% of them get burnt and 50% go to validators. 100% of the priority fees go to validators, 100% of the MEV tips go to validators, and as I mentioned earlier, you have application fees. And yeah, why are we talking about revenue? Why am I talking about revenue? Because for a long time, we as an industry were hung up on TVL as a metric, as a North Star metric. And that's kind of faulty. It does tell you something, but it doesn't give you the full picture. So for folks who work at TradFi and are more into traditional finance, you can think of revenue as the GDP of a country and TVL as the wealth. So although TVL tells you some part of the picture, you will not realize what the velocity of the money is doing, where the transactions are going, and where the value is getting accrued. So hence, it's all about revenue. All right, so let's get into numbers. I have looked at some numbers from DeFi Llama, and here you will see top eight chains by revenue. And you can see that Solana consistently dominates across the board, right since, for the last 1 year. Although you can see that at the beginning of the year, all the chains made slightly higher revenues, and they are kind of tapering off as we move along. But Solana still dominates with a 45% share of the revenue, which was pretty big at the start of the year at about 75%. And the reason for that is largely how the activity has moved away from meme coins into something else. And you can see the light green, which is hyperliquid, kind of capturing some share from Solana, which has been one of the stickiest crypto products that we have produced for the last couple of years. And if you look at the overall chain revenues, you will see that Solana stands at $3 billion, with the next best Ethereum at 844 million, which is more than 3x of the second highest. Another way to look at revenue is REV, which is something that people have been talking about on Twitter for quite some time. REV stands for real economic value. It is essentially the cost that user is willing to pay to a blockchain when they are interacting with different applications. Again, it's the same story. You'll see Solana at about $2.1 billion, with next best being Ethereum at 1.1 billion. For the last month, the trend is kind of shifting because all of the things that are happening with stablecoins, Plasma, you will see that Tron has caught up to about 36 million of monthly revenue, monthly REV. But take that with a pinch of salt, because we have seen that this kind of activity is more or less not consistent. So yeah, but Solana across the board has been showing strong numbers for the past 1 year. If you double click on REV, this is the split that you see. The trend is clear that people have been paying like more priority fees of late, and it's more or less about 10% base fees, about 55% priority fees, and 35% tips going to validators like Jito. So that was part of the revenue. Other part of the revenue is what is happening with the apps, right? So I've looked at applications that have done the highest amount of revenues for the past 1 year. And I've removed stablecoin issuers from here because they are in a different league of their own. 6 out of the top 10 apps in terms of revenue have been on Solana, right? If I change this metric by removing the incentive from revenue, which will give you earnings of these applications, 7 out of the top 10 applications on all the chains are on Solana. So, it tells you a pretty clear picture that there is something about Solana that allows applications to have users who are willing to pay them fees, and that way apps can be more sustainable. Yeah, so where is Solana revenue coming from? This goes back to the earlier slide where we see that the Solana share is kind of coming down. And a part of the reason is we started this year with crazy amount of meme coin activity with Trump coin and all the meme coin mania. And you see the green thing here is meme coins, which are contributing towards this revenue. So what happens after this, right? I mean, like, are meme coins sustainable? We don't know, because it's been a while. It's been almost like a couple of years since meme coins took off, and the activity has come off, but it has not vanished. But does it go on? I don't know. But there is a point at which Solana needs to move, or applications on Solana need to move towards something that is more sustainable. So things like stablecoins, things like RWAs, this is the place where I feel sustainable activity can take place on chains like Solana. So stablecoins have been gaining a lot of traction in the past year or so. On Solana alone, we've seen stablecoins 3x from about $5 billion to $15 billion. But that's still pretty tiny, right? If you look at Ethereum, Solana is just about 10% there. So yeah, in order to go towards more sustainable applications, I think the applications, or the nature of applications, kind of needs to move away from what is happening with meme coins. So one of the examples that I can talk about is Pump started off as a launchpad for memes. So they sort of used memes as a wedge to get into overall bigger slice, which is the creator economy. And I think they have been working on products which are not just memes, but you can look at Pump as a launchpad, right? Tokenization has been a topic across the board in crypto. And can it move from just being a meme launchpad to something wider, which allows you to tokenize creator revenues and so on? I think that's something that these applications are moving towards. So that's about it. I'm Saurabh. You can reach out to me Twitter, or you can reach out to decentralized.co. And if you've got any questions, let me know.